my thoughts on the ending of anime plotlines is fairly well known.
The ending is paramount!
It is in my opinion that a bad ending taints the experience of watching an anime on the whole. It changes my thoughts on any given show from something like, oh my god, that was amazing, to something more like, yeah, the show was great, but that ending... Ugh. Sure, you could say that I'm just putting too much importance on the ending, and I should probably just ignore it and enjoy the rest for what it is. I suppose I could. Fortunately, I am a completionist when it comes to watching things. If I watch or rewatch a series, I'm going to do so from the very beginning all the way to the very end. And because of this, chances are, if there is an ending that I hate, I won't want to rewatch it. It's one of the reasons why I haven't rewatched Gungrave in years, despite the fact that one of its arcs, one of the first ones, is some of my favorite story writing in anime. But when it comes to good endings and bad endings, the worst transgression to me that someone can make is when you take a series that has already ended. Maybe it didn't end in the best of ways, but it at least ended in a way that I was content with, a way that I am fine if we get no more story ever. That kind of ending. Take that and then give it a sequel. That sequel gives you this glimmer of enjoyment, this hope that everything will be okay, the ending will be made better, and everything will be awesome until, boom, in comes along this shitty ending that the writers cooked up, and it ruins it. It makes you feel horrible. It makes you want to just shout, no! Get out of here with that plot! Lay off the poor characters, will ya? Sheesh! Go away! We were having a good time till you showed up! Ugh! Go have some coffee with cream or something, because I'll tell you something! This is a happy place! Ladies, gentlemen, and others, my name is Arcada, and welcome to Glass Reflection today. Madoka Magica, Movie 3, Rebellion. Let's jam! So this is the part of the review where I get into the film itself, but while I will try not to get into spoilers, if you're the kind of person like me who would like to know nothing about the series before watching it, well, then actually I'm questioning why you watched this video in the first place. But regardless, tread carefully. So as the beginning of the film starts, we are reintroduced to the world of Madoka Magica, one that seems very familiar as it apparently takes place during the same time loop that the original series took place in, though with many changes. By the time Homura makes her appearance in the group's classroom, not only are both Madoka and Sayaka magical girls, something which does not happen immediately in the original series, but they're already good friends with Kyoko. Curious. Yes. Very curious. Not only that, but a mysterious being referred to as Bebe is hanging around Mami, acting as a sort of magical assistant, which would normally be fine if not for her striking resemblance to a particular witch named Charlotte. Obviously, something is not right here. Thankfully, over the course of the film, Homura starts to slowly remember the events of the original series, thus enabling her to work her way out of this new situation, for better or for worse. Now, a lot of people who have seen the film, obviously, would want me to talk about the twist. The point in the story where everything changes in the way that most people did not expect. While I will not say what the twist is exactly, I will say that I wish it happened differently. I understand why it happened. Heck, I can even understand a lot of the motivations behind it, both on the writer's end and the character's end. But it was still disappointing to me. The ending to the original series was rather melancholy. It wasn't a happy ending, but I didn't need it to be a happy ending. I just needed it to be an ending that I could get behind, one that felt like a conclusion to the characters' stories, as it were. And that's what it was. The biggest problem I have with Rebellion's ending is that after the twist, the film ends. Like, just ends. No feeling of conclusion, just the end that pops up on the screen. But really, it's telling you, it's not over yet. There's more to come. We just don't know when. Like if the creators were to come out and say, by the way guys, that's it. That is all you're getting from the Madoka Magica storyline till the end of time, unless it's written by someone who is not us. And then maybe they might give us a small little paragraph explaining what inevitably happened to the characters, but not actually animating what happened to the characters, I would be really annoyed, because the Madoka series did not need a sequel. But this film right here, sure as hell does. For the most part, on the character side of things, nothing much has changed. The film focuses more on the new setting and retreading old ground as far as the characters are concerned, with most of them getting no additional character development from the original series, with the exception of two. First, the obvious one is Homura, who goes through a drastic yet understandable change in character over the course of the film, especially as she starts off once again as the shy and timid girl she was before she made her magical contract. The second is the introduction of the new character, Bebe, as she was referred to when waltzing around like the witch Charlotte, and Nagisa Momoe when she is a magical girl. Nagisa's appearance in the film seems odd to me, like she didn't really need to be there from a writer's perspective. In universe, they explain that when Madoka rewrote the universe at the end of the series, Nagisa was saved from having become the witch Charlotte, and then proceeded to help Madoka in her godlike duties in exchange for cake. Now, I like the character, she is rather cute, but I still get that nagging sensation in the back of my mind that she only exists to sell merchandise rather than be a new character that is key to the plot. The only other character development we get really depends on whether or not you came into this movie from watching the series or watching the first two films. For those not in the know, Rebellion is the third movie in a trilogy of movies, but this is less important as a movie thing because the first two films were just retellings of the original series, edited slightly differently, focusing on different things, but more or less was the exact same story. In terms of running length, watching both films or watching all 13 episodes of the original series will take about the same amount of time. But the films are slightly different because their pacing has changed, so that the entire story can fit into two theatrical films. The biggest change that I disliked was the treatment of Mommy, who in the films gets drastically less screen time than in the series. Sure, she wasn't in the series that long either, but at least she still had enough time for us to get to know her, find out some of her backstory, etc., most of which was cut from the two films. In Rebellion, they attempt to make up for that by giving her far more interactions, from a new relationship with Nagisa to one of the better looking fight scenes that I have seen in a while. Speaking of, animation-wise, the style is more or less exactly the same from the series, which it should be. The only difference is that the animation budget is noticeably larger. The original series' biggest problem was the fact that, with the exception of the characters, everything seemed rather plain. That is, of course, until the Blu-ray releases came out and updated everything, because apparently the original episodes were only completed a few days before broadcast, if that, and were therefore somewhat rushed. I cannot say that the animation of this film was rushed, because it most certainly was not. In fact, it looks bloody amazing, and totally worth the price of admission for that alone. Plus, of course, Yuki Kajura returns as lead composer and just dominates the whole thing. You know, in a good way. I would even like to suggest that the Rebellion soundtrack has some pieces of music that are better than what was in the original series. Blasphemy, I know, but same composer, same awesome music, little bit of this, little bit of that. It's pretty good. I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm still filming. What the hell is wrong with me? Let's move on. As a piece of entertainment, the film was great. However, as a continuation of the Madoka Magica storyline, ultimately, it was a slight disappointment for me. Sure, the animation was superb, the music brilliant, and all of my same favorite characters came back from the original series with some additions that I was perfectly fine with, honestly. But that twist really feels like it came out of nowhere. Turns out, it did. In an interview with Gen Urobuchi, the film's head writer, he explains that originally, the script called for the story to be nicely wrapped up in a little bow by the conclusion of the film, in a way that was complete and, you know, finished. Unfortunately, that doesn't really work if you want the story to continue beyond this film, and so the film was changed. And you know, if they do come out with another continuation, be it a movie, another series, what have you, maybe it could make me feel better about this whole thing. Maybe then everything could work out. But the thing is, you have to end it sometime. You can't keep tugging this thing along. It has to end eventually, and I would prefer it to do so sooner rather than later, because I really would rather not be led on for years and then ultimately be given nothing else, because the story as it stands is incomplete. And I really do not want it to stay that way for very long. And so, with all that in mind, I have meticulously calculated values for the categories of story, characters, animation, sound, and my own personal enjoyment, which, after has me awarding Madoka Magica Rebellion with an overall score of 8.54 out of 10, and a recommendation to buy it rather than stream or whatever else you may do. Now, I realize you might be perplexed by that, especially considering how I dislike the ending, and of course, the ending is paramount, but while I did dislike it, that's mostly because the ending was not how I personally would have wanted it, not because it was a horrible monstrosity that needs to be burned at the stake. The rest of the film was exceptionally well written, as I would expect from Murabuchi, who has penned some of my favorite anime stories that exist at present, and I can hope that eventually he will be given the chance to end the series the way he wants to. Until then, I'll just enjoy the majority of this film and leave the rest to my own personal headcanon. At the time of this video, Rebellion is available from Aniplex of America. However, since it's not really a domestic release, even though thankfully it does come with English subtitles, it also means that it is a little on the expensive side. To be fair though, Aniplex has always been expensive compared to its competitors, so this should come as no surprise. For alternate anime recommendations, I point you towards, well, actually the end of Evangelion, a film that more or less does the exact same things, just with a different story. And by that I mean it continues on from where the series basically left off, or at least where people believe it to left off, and then proceeded to, almost make things worse. But whatever. Also, a shout out to Fate Zero, one of Urobuchi's masterpieces that you should check out if you have not already. Between those two, you should hopefully find something to your liking. And that's it from me. Please subscribe if you enjoyed the video, follow me on Twitter if you feel so inclined, and until next time, ladies, gentlemen, and others, stay frosty.